So I don't know
Okay.
where you can give me that like money is more important than people when people were intrinsic to what the money is worth now.
Okay, so then would you, I mean, I feel like you already knew it's coming. Would you make that argument for us giving back all of the money that we have as an entire government to the Native Americans? Who literally the only reason why this entire government is possible is
Oh
on their
shit!
land?
Listening to Reset Race, you're now tuned in to Reset Race. You're listening to Reset Race, you're now tuned in to Reset Race. Put them back on the grill again, we grilling them. Put them back on the grill again, we grilling them. Put them back on the grill again, we grilling them. Back on the grill again, we grilling them. You're listening to Reset Race. ADOS need reparations to make America great. You're tuned in to Reset Race. We no longer starving while others eat off our plate. No. You're listening to Reset Race. We focused on our justice claim. We know what is at stake. You're tuned in to Reset Race. You'll find out who really about justice and really who fake. Lineage go back to U.S. Southern plantations. Lineage, Jim Crow and mass incarceration. Redlining lynchings. We are old from this nation. You're not about justice if you ain't for reparations. MG the wise one. Cousin mother intellectual. Samantha bringing fire. Anti-black. We pressing you. No permanent friends and no permanent enemies. The backbone of the country to win. You need our energy. You gon' see. Listening to Reset Race. You now tuned in to Reset Race. You're listening to Reset Race. You're now tuned in to Reset Race. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Back on the grill again. We grilling them. You're listening to Reset Race. ADOS need reparations to make America great. You're tuned in to Reset Race. We no longer starving while others eat off our plate. No. You're listening to Reset Race. We focused on our justice claim. We know what is at stake. You're tuned in to Reset Race. You'll find out who really about justice and really who fake.
Welcome to Reset Race, where we talk about race, and especially as it pertains to race and politics in the United States of America, and how it impacts people who descend from slaves here in the country. So, with that said, I think I said it was Michael Graham from Active Right Press. All right, in any event, I'm going to introduce you to the team, or they're going to introduce themselves, and we're going to start from the top. Ladies first, of course. That's how we get down. And Sam, talk to the people.
Yeah, I know, it's so weird, right? All right, so I'm Samantha Angelique. You can sometimes find me on Twitter at me17trillion, but I've been taking a break from you people. But I will probably be back at some point, but I'm about to go on vacation, so I'm really not going to be bothered. But hey, I'm looking forward to tonight and see what this BS will be, and let's have some fun. You know, I'm in for a good roast.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. All right. Oh, and I'm back on Twitter for another 5 minutes. It's ActifyMG_RR, as in Romeo. All right. All right. Big John, talk to him.
Yeah, I am here. This is John C. You know what I mean? The average American Negro that descends from chattel slavery. Yes, I do. Okay, if you don't like it or not. But yeah, follow me on Twitter if you want to. I'm at John Danny OC, back with the fam. Let's get into it. Make it short and sweet. Let's just do it. Fuck it.
Mud, go ahead and talk to him, man.
All right, they call me Mud. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Clubhouse, all at of Lineage. Bit of Those TV is back, so just stay tuned in. All right, let's get to it.
Who literally the only reason why this entire government is possible is on their land. So we should give back. It doesn't matter about deficit spending. We should just give them all of the money, right?
Well, to a certain degree, possibly. You're saying all the money? Like, clearly it's not. Yep. It's not practical to implement. So now, okay, now here's the problem,
so
right?
Now,
whenever you say all the money,
on the practical argument is where I want.
Yeah, because now you're saying all the money, which implies that you've already defined a definitive amount of money that's worth compensation for all the wrongs done for Trail of Tears and eminent domain and
it's literally. I mean, they stole land. Every single dime that America has is literally, definitively off of the back of Native Americans. Period. Every single dime. So the hundreds of trillions of dollars that we benefit from as being Americans, all is owed to the Native Americans. And by your previous argument of not caring about deficit spending, we should give it to them.
Certainly.
Nah, they brought
It's
the
you.
trailer. Yeah, they says they brought the Trail of Tears like the Native Americans.
Like we wasn't there.
Word up, like they wasn't bringing us with them across state. Like they like, oh, they was dying there. You feel me? And they had a bunch of black slaves with them. Like, you know what I mean? Like that ain't happen. Like in the trail, like it wasn't thousands and thousands of fucking Africans. It was thousands of Native Americans that did die. That was displaced from their lands. Like, and that's fucked up. But you had like it wasn't the heads and chiefs of them tribes that had niggas with them. You know what I mean? Trying to bring us to Oklahoma. Be like, what the fuck? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you get off a white dude plantation and get sold to a Native American. That's some wild shit. Like,
hello, everyone. I'm Sam Ford. Earlier this month in our 7 Inside Reports, I took a personal journey to look at a largely unknown chapter of black history when my ancestors and thousands of other blacks were slaves, not of the whites, but of the Indians.
And even when they do, they still pretend like we weren't here when all of those wars and everything else was going on.
I'm saying.
That's the BS part. Like, they really sit there and pretend like we weren't here for all of this. Like, we were here. Like, we've always been here, y'all. Like, quit playing with us.
All right.
All right, let's play some more of this stuff.
Something to be entertained here. It's so hard because I'm trying to root it down into reality, and it's like we're pivoting from the African American argument into a bigger ordeal now.
Yeah, I'm just trying to use your premises, because one of the reasons why I made the deficit argument is because you have to make a practical argument whenever we talk about any kind of money given to any group of people. And your premises was there is a moral wrong that was committed, and so we shouldn't, I believe there's literally a quote that you said that the deficit shouldn't matter when we're talking about human lives and the moral issues that came with, those lives. That
isn't reparations mainly what we're asking about, is like the 40 acres and the mule, the land theft, Jim Crow laws. That's not morality. That's not morality. Am I wrong?
I mean, it's just the typical bullshit, man. I can't. Let's just keep going. let's let it finish.
Should apply to Native Americans, and they would be owed essentially everything. So if we want to then make a practical argument, we can then
hold on. Wait. Fuck that. I'm with irrelevant for all of this, right? Mm-hmm. U.S. give the Native Americans back everything, right? And then Native Americans, you owe us fucking reparations. So we need our land and our money, and we'll take it from you.
Sound good to me.
Tomato. Good. Give me my shit. I don't care who come from. So that's fine by me.
Shit, I'm trying to get it from the U.S. though. I like we'll talk to the U.S. first. The natives can talk to the U.S. after, whatever they figure out.
And after we talk to the U.S., we need to holler at the natives, and then we need to go holler at some of these African families on the motherland. Some of us need to have some family conversations about who sold who.
The U.S. is the jump off point. You feel me? Like real shit. Like, and it's not all thing about it. We lump them all into one group too. So the thing about it, like,
exactly.
I'm not asking the Navajo for no money. So I'm pretty sure Navajo maybe they have, but I don't think so. You asking the Cherokee, you asking the 5 civilized tribes, really.
Exactly.
You asking certain people out of that group they lumped you in. That's give us our money. Y'all niggas feel me? Like, and the slave traders from the other people that didn't own slaves, the other tribes that didn't own slaves, that participated in slavery, that benefited from slavery. Whether it be fucking catching slaves, or you know what I mean, catching slaves, bringing the slave back, or fucking just you feel me, doing other little bullshit. You feel me, like nah. We want our money back from y'all, but the money come from the U.S. government though. But after that, then we can go get our bag from wherever we gotta get the bag, including Nigeria.
Every entity that we can trace down. You know what I'm saying? I'm for getting the bag from them. You know what I'm saying? Fuck it.
Me too. I'm with it. I want to, everybody. All the insurance companies, Chase Bank. I want it all.
Everything.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Everything that you got from my ancestors, we want it back. Fair is fair. All right. Should I go back to playing this?
Yeah, but
All right.
Go back to my previous argument about the pragmatic implications of reparations towards black people. But that was the whole point of my argument against.
To kind of center this on, so a relevance argument is essentially that, like, if we pay reparations to one group of people, how far do we run that back? So in the United States, I know that in the 1800s, the Fort Laramie Treaty was a big one where there was like some land that was, the Supreme Court ruled on this and said like the United States had explicitly violated this. This is just one of dozens of like Native American treaties that have been violated. And the Supreme Court said, hey, the United States illegally violated this. We stole like Black Hills from the Sioux Nation. And, you know, now we're going to pay them like $100 million in terms of reparations for that. But the Sioux Nation refused the money. They're like, well, hold on. We don't actually even want that. That land was never for sale. Like, you should give that back. So the question is that if we make the moral argument that African Americans are owed some money for violated promises in the past, I'm specifically referencing like the 40 acres and a meal promise, that if this was something that was violated, should we also run that back, you know, a couple hundred years earlier and say, okay, well, what about like Native Americans or American Indians whose land was stolen from them and then treaties broken by the U.S. government? How do you recompense those people? I guess this is a relevant current point.
The answer to that is yes. You should give them back their land. And answer B, that has nothing to fucking do with Black Americans who descend from United States chattel slavery.
Preach.
See how easy that is? Yes, Native Americans. Yes, that Sioux tribe deserves back their fucking hills and their fucking land, and they deserve their shit because that's what it is. It wasn't for sale. But you peeped how he said what Mud been saying. They tried to give him some money, and they said, "Fuck you. That shit was never for sale. Give us back our shit." So
we was for sale. I ain't gonna lie, the we was for sale. Some Native Americans bought us. We was for sale.
No, I felt that one, John. I was like, oh.
We was for sale.
That was far.
I felt that in my chest.
I know. What the fuck is he talking about? Yes,
I felt it. That's why I was like, oh.
What the fuck is he talking about? This land was never for sale. We were for sale. And they could have bought us if they wanted to. They wanted to participate in it. Wasn't the Sioux?
They did buy us. You know what I'm saying?
I ain't mad they did buy us though. I ain't gonna give us some fucking bread. Give us some money.
Yeah, but you see how easy that is? You see how easy it is for me to be like, Native Americans deserve their treaties and their shit honored. And Black Americans who descend from chattel slavery deserve reparations. Japanese Americans deserve the check that they got from their time in internment. Yes. Jewish people deserve their money from the Holocaust. Yes. Nobody died. Nobody's bleeding. See how easy that was? It's not hard at all. Now y'all practice it.
It's a very simple concept.
Oh my goodness. All right, let's rock.
Yeah, this is a relevant current point.
So there is, okay. There might be a sense of false equivalence going on here if we're like, because I'm not sure the Native Americans were ever enslaved, as opposed to just having like, territory relinquished and then belittled and then told to go elsewhere, right? So there is a conversation to be had here about like how much punishment was done. And I get it here. It's not really a pretty thing to say here, like to quantify how bad bads are versus dehumanizing enslavement versus what that was done here. But regardless, though, I don't really have like a great way to hit this one on for you here, other than that, like I generally would advise here that it's not in the best of interest to sink your own ship in order to tow other ships back to bay that are at risk of sinking here comparatively, if we imagine that in that way. So yeah, obviously don't completely destroy the U.S. as a country and its economy entirely here in order to compensate back those people. You do your best to do something for now, and maybe you can do like a kind of a cash program, a payment program. You can make it a per year thing. You can agree on an amount and kind of go from there and make it a continual, maybe generational compensation here. But now you're like really getting on. We hadn't really talked about the definitives of how much was owed on reparations and the consequences of that. Just more like on the argument of whether or not it was worth considering.
Gotcha. Just to be real quick to clarify from my point of view here, when I think of reparations, more specifically, I'm thinking of after the Civil War. I think Lincoln approved a deal where there was like a 3-point creed where there was a whole bunch of land in Southern California, other parts of the United States, Southern United States, where one of the three like creeds, or one of the 3 points of that creed was that no more than 40 acres, I think, in a mule would be given to African American families. The communities would be ruled by and policed by African American communities. There's a third point, I don't remember it, but this was a promise that was like almost immediately rescinded when Andrew Jackson came into office. He gave all of that land back to the plantation owners and said, no, screw it, you guys don't actually get that at all. But that was initially like a creed that was approved in the United States, would be to award or recompense, I should say, prior slaves after the Civil War with that, essentially with that unique land, and then those communities that they would, Andrew Jackson, sorry.
If I can here, I want to go further in here. I would argue this is like, definitely like a lot more in the false equivalent situation here, because the slope you're entertaining right now, Relevant, is one that like, okay, because if we compensate black people, we must compensate everyone, and because we can't realistically, feasibly do that without collapsing our economy as we know it right now here, which again is an entitlement statement, because it's like it's an economy that was made possible by exploitation of labor and relinquishing of land unfairly, and whatever, raping, pillaging, whatever you want to call it, all the bad shit that happened in the last like freaking 200 plus years here. That if we can't solve one of them, we shouldn't solve any of them. It also entertains to me a similar one of like how, like, okay, if you're opposed to an implementation of universal basic income because quote unquote wealthy people would also get money as well undeservingly, that therefore you shouldn't do it at all. Seems more like a really I don't know what the word here is. Like it's a really fickle thing to say there, because like the overall net effect of the implementation would benefit more than the like consequential negligence of like some of like the outliers in the policy being implemented.
So real quick, hitting this back at irrelevant. So it seems like Trax is saying that there has to be some threshold of reasonability that we can test. So like the hypothetical test for your hypothetical argument would be, it sounds like, using your argument, it sounds like the US federal government could like agree to enter a contract with me to pay me $5,000 to do a job. And then after I do the job, the federal government doesn't pay me. And then I go to the federal government and say, hey, you just scammed me. You need to pay me back. And then the federal government says, well, hold on. If I pay you back, well, then I'm going to have to pay all the African Americans back. And then I'm going to have to pay all the American Indians back. So clearly I just can't do anything, is like the counter hypothetical to what you're saying.
Right. So the reason why I brought up the Native Americans specifically is because it fit the premises that so far Trihex had put out there. The reason and the
So basically he's saying Trihex's argument was garbage, which it was, because he made it all about feelings versus making his argument about chattel slavery, about the fact that a promise was made for 40 acres and a mule, and then about the irrequisite damages that have come afterwards, right? So basically you set yourself up for some bullshit from the start. And this is why it's very important that you talk about specificity, and also not only reparations, you don't talk about morality. White people do not care about morality. That's not what appeals to them. Like, even for this Destiny dude, he was like, what appealed to him was the fact that it was a promise that was made. It was supposed to be written down. It was supposed to be done, and they didn't do it. That's why he gives a shit, not because he felt like it was immoral. So,
Exactly.
anything else, guys, before I go back?
No, go ahead.
hypothetical was not meant to be bad faith in such
Well,
a
I think
capacity.
so Trihex further qualified his premise, saying that the recompense of African Americans probably wouldn't lead to like the overall destruction of the country. I think it was with the sailboat tugging. I don't remember the exact words used, but wouldn't destroy the country. Like giving American Indians back all of their land would obviously like destroy the country. Yeah.
The only reason why I brought up the Native, well, you wouldn't even necessarily have to give the Native Americans back all the land. You could. The reason why I brought up explicitly the Native Americans is because he made a statement that deficit spending does not matter in relation to human lives. And so you don't have to give the land back. You can just give them hundreds of trillions of dollars. You could, if deficit spending doesn't matter. So the whole point of this is to, of course, come to the conclusion you care about deficit spending. You care about a certain amount of deficit
What
spending.
the fuck is he?
I should have said deficit trolling.
He's talking about deficit spending. He brought the whole argument back like, yo, listen, we can give Native Americans hundreds. They told you they don't want no money. They told you like, I don't want your money. I don't want American currency. We asking for American currency. But the fact that we asking for American currency because we built this fucking shit. You feel me? The reason why the economy flowed the way it flowed. You feel me? The reason that this shit got a backbone to stand on. We built the backbone of this shit. We like, yo, give us our cut of that shit. We are asking for that. They're not asking for that. You feel me? Like, what the fuck? Like, they don't want $100 trillion. Like, what the fuck is he talking about? And even they said, let's take all my land back. All right, America, give me this money. We gonna go. At the end of the day, man, like, at the end of the day, man, this shit wild, man. This shit wild. This shit wild, man. Like, what the fuck? I don't know.
Sounds like some colonizer shit to me, right? Like, oh no, you said you didn't want that money, but you gonna take this fucking money.
That's the game they've been playing with them this whole time.
It ain't worked yet. I guess they just waiting for it to get down enough generations. They're like, sooner or later we'll get a generation of sellouts.
In the wake of the Great Sioux War of 1876-77, an agreement is forced really upon the Lakota people, and the Black Hills are gone. And this is again something that is very traumatic for Lakota people. In 1972, the Indian Claims Commission decided that the government owed the Lakota tribes $17.5 million for the taking of the land. $17.5 million. Now, of course, that land is some of the most productive gold mines in American history, right, around Deadwood and Leeds, South Dakota. But that doesn't play into it, right? In 1979, the Court of Claims upheld this ruling and added 5% in simple interest. And that brought the final award to the Lakotas to $106 million. So $106 million. The Lakota tribes in unison refused to take the money. And up to today, they still refuse to take the money, although there are moves and there are people who say, the land's not coming back. We need to take the settlement. Due to interest, as it sits untouched in the Treasury, the Lakota settlement is now over $1 billion that the combined Lakota tribes have not taken.
For real. I think that's what
They just keep kicking that can down the road.
They like, I don't want more money. I don't want your money. I don't want your money. I want your money. That's what they waiting for. They don't want their money though. We want our money. We want what's owed to us because we fucking built the economy, and that's what's owed to us. Like, it's fucking sharing wealth and all types of shit. Not only the wealth from the free labor, it's based off of real. This wealth off the free labor that's owed to us. Like, that shit is in crazy trillions of dollars. Like, on top of the damages too. Like, you know what I mean? Like, on top of like the fucking physical, psychological, all these damages, generation after generation.
So basically, the lesson that we learned from MMT is that we're not concerned about deficit spending. We're concerned about inflation. And that's basically it,
That's it. They make it harder than it really has to be.
All right. You could do that 100 trillion, but you might not be able to do it all at one time. You got to break that shit out. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Of deficit spending. That was the whole point of the hypothetical.
I should have said deficit trolling. Be more particular here rather than a definitive catch-all about deficit spending doesn't matter at all. Sorry, let me correct that and elaborate and say deficit trolling shouldn't matter. Shouldn't be like, entertained too much here. It does reek a little bit of a similar tactic being used by, I hate to make it like a modern thing here, but by Republicans when it comes to COVID relief for working class Americans right now.
Right.
Now the Republicans are no longer in power. Then it becomes now they're no longer in power. Now it's deficit concerning here. So it's like, it seems a little opportunistic to like use that point to take down the entirety of the wrongness that was done in the first place.
Well, so I wasn't actually trying to do that in any way, shape, or form. The whole point is just to examine that I know you disagree with the idea of giving a group of people hundreds of trillions of dollars. That's why I bring up the hypothetical, so that way you disagree with it, and then we can move forward, right? So moving forward, if we agree there's a certain amount of deficit spending that
Can I,
is...
real quick, just to interject here, because we're using hundreds of trillions. So when I Googled around on this before the argument, the number that I came out with, that people seem to say a lot, is $6.4 trillion would be about what the total compensation would look like if reparations were paid out and cash what was out. It would be $6.4 trillion.
For Native Americans?
Oh no, I'm sorry, for African Americans. I'm just because we were talking about like, would it cost hundreds of trillions to do
Wait,
deficit?
why? I'm actually wondering how that number came about.
How do you arrive at that number? Actually, I have an idea for a number, by the way, but we haven't gotten to that point yet.
I didn't look to see exactly how they'd come to the number, but I mean, like, there's like
that's the juice, though. That's what we.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's the.
Okay, well, one guy calculated it at like 60 trillion, but
at me 27 trillion. You heard?
So no. My whole thing
trillion
is so you came into the reparations debate. You didn't even bother Googling what the number was, and then you're gonna ask the white man like, "Why don't you know? Why don't you know where the number came from, Negro? Why didn't you Google schmoogle before you came on this show talking about reparations?"
No, it's just that motherfuckers think they can argue about this shit without knowing any of the details. Like, we see that all the fucking time.
I'm black, qualified, reparations.
See that? Him saying, he's saying hundreds of trillions. That's more money than the United States. That's more money than like United States, Britain, all the major powers got combined and shit.
Yeah, if you think about it, because what United States says, what, like 107, 110 trillion, something like that. So yeah, he's basically saying give all of the whole 100 trillion back to Native Americans.
That's what he's saying. He don't know what the fuck he's talking about.
I don't care as long as you give us our 14 trillion. I don't give a fuck, because that's what we need to close the racial wealth gap. So
at the very least.
No, I was just gonna say that 6 trillion figure. That's like if they just calculated out the 40 acres and the mule, but that's not including the slave labor. That's not including black code laws, peonage, exclusion from the Homestead Act, segregation. It's not including any of that shit. So obviously that's too small. The racial wealth gap, like I like it as the minimum. You know what I'm saying? But I also think like Thomas Kramer.
I like Thomas Kramer.
Here's an excerpt of my Excel spreadsheet. In the first column, I have the year. Then I have the number of the enslaved, italics if it's estimated, bold print if it's measured. And for wage as well, italics if estimated and bold print if measured. And then the hours per year, that's the number of enslaved times all the days in the year times all the hours in the day. And that multiplied with the wage gives the annual total. And that is then accumulated up and compounded with only 3% interest. And this goes at the bottom of the page till 1794, but I continue this process until 1860. And from then on, I use this formula to compound it up to 2018, again at 3%, which barely makes up for inflation. I arrive at a total amount in 2018 dollars of $18.58 trillion. For comparison's sake, the US GDP in 2018 was $20.89 trillion. So it's roughly 1 year worth of the US GDP, conservatively estimated. Taking an interest rate of 6%, that's the interest rate Georgetown University used in its sales contract when it sold 272 slaves in 1838 to save the institution from financial ruin. If I use that percentage, 6%, the debt balloons to $6.2 quadrillion. So basically what I take from this calculation is the interest rate will be the single most important number in any negotiations between the African American descendants of the enslaved and the US federal government.
But he was taking into account like all of the stolen labor as well, and then compounding like interest and everything. But that was for like a 60 trillion number. The 6.4 trillion number, that might just be like promised land that was owed, and then maybe the value of that land today plus inflation or something. But yeah.
Okay, so let's take a second here. Let's entertain that. Okay, hypothetically, if a payout was $60 trillion, what happens to the economy? I didn't entertain the simulation.
I believe it was
of
6
payout.
trillion, not 6D.
That 60 is with a crazy one.
60,
yeah.
If it's a crazy number,
60. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. If
what would happen to the
payout
economy?
was $60 trillion, what happens to the U.S. economy? Did we just like completely
I think it'd
collapse?
be over, right? I think we print too much money and it'd be over.
No.
I'm pretty confident that's the case. I don't know enough about economics.
That's probably a reasonable guess.
Did you catch that? I don't know about economics. I don't know enough about economics to make that point. Exactly. Again, my friends, don't get it twisted because I read books. Like, I don't have all these degrees. Like, I just sit around and read a bunch of shit and watch a bunch of lectures. So the information is out there. Again, Stephanie Kelton wrote a whole book called The Deficit Myth. There's a bunch of really good lectures that she has on here. She breaks it down so smooth. She breaks it down as simple as a game of Monopoly, breaking down how this shit works. So she really makes it simple where your freaking sixth grader can understand it. So I'm sure all of us can understand it if we go and listen. So don't listen to people who say they don't know shit about economics when they talk about reparations. That's a pet peeve of mine. Irrelevant is irrelevant. Try Hex. At least you're trying, brother. You're trying.
Come on, like it ain't that bad.
But Destiny did a better video by himself, cussing out white people.
Yeah,
and these Negroes did.
He got cooked after this shit. Probably that's probably what it is. Like, and I ain't gonna lie.
You know, but I give it to him, right? Like. He's a white dude. He didn't have to do this shit. This is a gaming channel. What the fuck you need to talk about reparations for? I'll take it, you know. And at least he kind of know a little bit of something. At least he seems like he's throwing out some kind of information here and there, you know.
Yeah, because you know why? Because think about it. His whole thing is to debate the most racist, hardcore racist, anti-black people on earth. Like these people, their arguments to him all the time that black people was not human. The reason why black people commit so much crime is because it's inherent. So, feel me? Like, then when you dig into that stuff, you realize that the root of it comes from chattel slavery. Then you realize, then you start thinking about how you fix that. You feel me? And why is this? And why is that? So that's why, feel me? Because he just don't like, feel me? He don't like the hardcore right. He like, y'all niggas is dumb. Getting the information now. Now it's like, oh, we gotta give them some. We might have to give them big shit. That's it. That's it.
Real talk, John. Okay, let's go. What we got? A couple seconds.
I'm pretty confident that's the case. I don't know enough about economics.
That's probably a reasonable guess. 60 trillion.
Yeah. What's our deficit right now at? Is it like?
I think it's
22.
I have no idea.
So the current standing U.S. debt, which is like our total outstanding debt, is about 28 trillion. Yeah.
That doesn't matter though. Debts don't matter.
Yeah, it sounds like that would collapse everything ultimately here.
No, fool. Listen. Go ahead, John. Yeah, they just running their mouths. Like, what's that? I feel like Stephanie just did a video that I watched recently. Sorry, y'all got anything for that last little piece? While I try to pull up this video where she was talking about how she don't like to call it a deficit. She likes to call it something else.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is we're running $1 trillion deficits every year. Like, and we just been doing it for like the last 10, 12 years. So obviously it's not that big of a deal, you know, how high our debt goes. Also, like the 60 trillion thing, it can be done. It just got to be spaced out. Like that's just how it has to go.
No, that's it. And that's the thing. Like, this can be done. Let's say they did do the 60 trillion. They could do the 60 trillion over the course of 10 years, right?
You know, honestly, I'm not going to sit here and talk like I'm an expert in this field. You know, I'll leave it up to Darity or, you know, someone in that, you know, that realm. But I mean, I believe it's fucking possible. I haven't seen anything that would suggest that it isn't, because we're easily doing it with $1 trillion and no one's even, you know, flinching. So, you know.
Exactly. And that's the point. Like, these people are kind of silly. I just want to play a little clip from her. We can trim it down later on in the video, but there's just this little piece where she talks about the deficits.
Congratulations on your new book, The Deficit Myth. For people who are new to MMT or modern monetary theory, could you explain why is the fear and terror over running a federal deficit a wrong-minded approach to running the economy?
Okay, so I think the best place to start is with what the deficit is, because, you know, the word itself carries this connotation that I think does so much of the work of damaging our thinking, right? You hear the word deficit and you sort of naturally think, well, there must be something wrong. You know, a deficit is not something you want to see. If you were watching a football game over the weekend and you heard the announcer say, you know, if the Chiefs are going to come back and win this game, they're going to have to overcome a 7-point deficit, you know, or something like that. You know, the word deficit to be a problem, something to eliminate, overcome, right? So what is this thing we call the government deficit? What is it? It is the difference between two numbers. Okay, one of the numbers is how many dollars the government spends into the economy each year, and the other number is how many dollars the government subtracts out of the economy, mostly through taxation each year. So when the government's budget is in deficit, it means they're adding more dollars than they are subtracting away. So you go, wait a minute, if the government's adding more dollars to the economy than it is siphoning away, doesn't that mean that there's some dollars going somewhere? And the answer is yes. Their deficit is nothing more than a financial contribution. They're making a deposit, right, into some other part of the economy. So if you like, their red ink becomes black ink on somebody else's ledger, on someone else's balance sheet. The question is, for whom, right? Because if once you understand the deficit as a financial contribution to some other part of our economy, then you realize pretty quickly that, hey, wait a minute, every deficit must be good for someone, right? The question is for whom? So then we could talk about things like the Republican tax cuts, because clearly Republicans understand that deficits are a way to deliver a financial windfall to parts of the economy, to some people, to corporations, to people in the economy. It's just that when Republicans run deficits, they like to run them and channel the windfall to the people who least need the help, right? The money goes to people who are already doing phenomenally well. But make no mistake, every deficit is good for someone.
One of the things that you point out in your book and you point out in your talks about modern monetary theory is that the difference between a household budget and the federal budget is the fact that the federal government can print its own money, is the one that issues money. How does that make a difference?
Well, it's all the difference, right? So the federal government, as you say, I never use the phrase printing money because that.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. I meant to not do that, but I did.
It just creates other problems because people hear it and then it triggers them in the way the word deficit does. Printing money is triggering because people automatically think you get hyperinflation. So the federal government is the issuer of the dollar. In fact, they have the sole legal authority given to it by the Constitution, in the Constitution, to create the currency, to issue our currency. So why is that important? Why does that matter? Well, if you and I could do what the federal government could do, if businesses could do it, heck, if mayors and governors could do it, then we would all just look after ourselves in the coronavirus pandemic. We wouldn't have to worry if we lost a job and lost our wages. We would just be like, hey, I'm a currency issuer. I'll just fix it myself. Small businesses wouldn't be going out to take PPP loans. They'd just take care of it themselves. Governors and mayors wouldn't be pleading with Congress to help provide aid so they can keep essential services going if they could issue the currency. But the reality is the rest of us are just users of the currency. The federal government is fundamentally different. As an issuer of the currency, they can do what the rest of us can't do. They can commit to spending money they do not have. And that's what Congress did with the CARES Act, right? That $2.2 trillion, that first major piece of legislation that came through both the House and the Senate and was signed into law. That $2.2 trillion was Congress saying, we're going to spend $2.2 trillion. We didn't go out and find $2.2 trillion. We didn't go out and raise taxes. We didn't borrow the money. We just have something called the power of the purse. So we can commit to spending money we do not have because we issue it, right? We can issue it into existence.
All right. I'm not going to play. Yeah, I'm not going to play too much of it, but that's like I said, go look up Stephanie Kelton's videos. This is just one that she did 5 days ago. She has a lot of really good videos, but just to kind of go a little bit deeper into what Mud was saying.
So basically all this shit comes down to you could have been paid us our fucking money. At the end of the day, I don't want to hear this. You could have been gave us our money. You know what I mean? Like real shit, give us our money. You need our money now more than ever. Give us our money. Like, leave us alone and give us our shit.
No, it's something else. I know I'm about to be irritated too because I saw the title for this one. So, and it has the nerve to be long. Sorry. Okay, here we go. Oh Lord, will it fix racism? Reparations' goal is not to fix racism. Pop kids, white people. I don't care if you're racist. I don't care. I don't care. If you hate me as a Black person, I don't want to be your friend. I don't want to know you. I don't want to live in your neighborhood. I don't need you to give up being racist. All I need you to do is give me my reparations and not come in my town and try to kill me and my family. If you can do those two things, we're good. Right?
That's it.
That's all we need. If you want to keep hating niggas, that's between you and your God.
You
Because
know
most
what?
of y'all be calling yourselves Christians.
In fact, if you hate niggas so much, I want to help you hate niggas by removing myself from
From
any
your neighborhood
to you, so we don't have to see each other.
We just want everybody to be happy. You guys can have your nice neighborhoods. We can go have nice neighborhoods too. Like, we just want what y'all have, and we want to not have to go broke to have it, to live next to you. Like, it's nothing too crazy. We just want baby.
Actually, you know what? I haven't asked you any questions here at all yet. Let me ask you here. So just to recap so far, you are opposed to all forms of direct monetary compensation. Like, there's no scenario where you entertain money going to people directly. Only community investment.
Direct cash in hand can be very useful in multiple different ways. However, I oppose it in the form of reparations because primarily, when I talk about reparations, it's primarily in a capacity that I care about the current circumstances that exist and surround a group of people. And so I'm mainly in the capacity of wanting reparations to solve the problems that currently exist. And so direct cash doesn't seem to solve a lot of the problems that African Americans have, as rich African Americans have problems very similar to poor African Americans in a lot of ways. And so I think it helps alleviate it to a degree, of course, but I think the resources can be better spent and better allocated if they go to schools or investing in Black businesses or Black infrastructure, or more specifically, infrastructure in Black.
But that's a different pot of money, all right? That's a different pot of money. That's infrastructure, not Black infrastructure. It's infrastructure. It's not, that should be invested in anyway, right? And this is a is it red herring is a term I'm looking for?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is no, that's crazy. This is infrastructure. Spend the money on infrastructure. Reparations is something different. If you want to spend money on healthcare, that's healthcare money. Reparations is a debt owed, something different. All right. And this doesn't, okay, again, we got to give these people grace because not everybody's been steeped in this stuff for the last several years. So, what you got, Sam?
No, I just, well, it's back to the schools and listen, where's the Black community? I live in a somewhat Black community. We 35%. That's not gonna, I don't know. You know what it is? And I hate to be so burnt out, but what we get wrong about closing the racial wealth gap, right? Education does not close the racial wealth gap, whether it's primary, secondary, post-secondary, whatever. That does not close the racial wealth gap. Home loans, infrastructure, Black schools, which HBCUs now a lot of them are not predominantly Black anymore. They're becoming people of color schools. So that is not directly helping the Black community because, like John likes to say, you got to get grades and you have to be educated in your schools before that to even get into these colleges to be able to take advantage of that. So if you can't get to school for it to be free, you can't really do nothing. So at this point, that's kind of what I have to say. So basically, I'm just saying is you need to read What We Get Wrong About Closing the Racial Wealth Gap by Sandy Darity. And if you did, you would see that all of your suggestions, while you're saying cash wouldn't fix anything, everything you're suggesting wouldn't fix anything either. And it wouldn't fix anything for poor white people either. You fix schools because you want there to be a stronger workforce, right? You want innovators, you want people who can create and make society better. That's why you fix all schools for all Americans. That's why you build really good schools in Appalachia. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you fix all infrastructure and make all schools free and all schools better, and you lower these class sizes and you really educate people. And then we get a much smarter group of people to fix the problems that we have coming forward. But that's not reparations. That's what America should do as what used to be the greatest country in the world for white people.
Yeah, yeah. It's what functioning societies should do. Invest in the future, education, infrastructure, workforce development, all that stuff. Thank you, Sam. Mud, what you got, man?
I mean, I'm just going to echo the same points. Like, I mean, reparations is for the harms done to us in the past, and all this infrastructure, school, business. This is shit that should just be regular things that you're just doing for American citizens.
Regular,
Like,
degular, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, and also, I don't even know if there's going to be any black businesses left by the time we get done with this fucking pandemic. Like, for real.
Yeah, absolutely.
So investing in them is not going to really do much.
That's for sure. I'm sorry, Bud, you done?
Yeah, I mean, basically, you got to put capital in people's hands so that they can.
Yeah, that's always been demand has always been the key to pushing an economy, right? The supply side shit has eaten into logic. It's stupid supply side economic shit is eaten into logic. It is eaten into economics. It is eaten into infrastructure. It's eaten into everything and really undermined it, along with prosperity gospel, which is its brother on the what it is it's special. Never mind. It is his brother on the social side. Anyway,
The economics of it all is like based around this myth of the welfare queen. That's what our society's been running from that concept and fucking everybody over just to try to fulfill Reagan's racist dreams. But go ahead, John.
That's for sure. Come on, John.
Nigga, I just got out from the liquor store. I don't know what's going on. Some bullshit. I ain't gonna lie. I went up the street real quick. Cigarette. I seen the fiend out there. I don't know. Came back on, and then y'all niggas on this shit. There's some bullshit going on. I know they talking some bullshit, but yeah, you feel me? You talking about in the context of you feel me? These type of economics. You talking about these wealth. Feel me? Like what I want to piggyback off what Mud said is with the welfare queen. You know what I mean? That's the whole reason why not to give motherfucking public assistance to citizens, like because black people would see like because it's real shit. Because it's like this is the reason not to give welfare to citizens. Not even you ain't talking about you ain't even getting into the other nicks and crannies of it. The citizens, because the Negroes are citizens. They very disproportionately unwealthy and disproportionately poor. So they gonna get a lot of that shit. And it's crazy that I know what y'all talking about. This guy's talking about deficit this, deficit that. This nigga is out of it. I'm sorry, this nigga out of his fucking he out of his mind, man. Real shit. I think that I mean he's a liberal, that's conservative type liberal that's talking about what about the deficit? And what about this? And what about who don't get this and who don't get that? So I mean this whole shit is bullshit. You already know, like real shit. The reason why they don't want to do fucking Star Trek, or the reason they don't want to do all that because they always say that motherfucking the majority of any type of public assistance is gonna go to these lazy Negroes. And that's the reason why you feel me that they try to cut your shit off right now. You feel me? Appalachia try to cut your shit off right now. That's public. Feel me? Like,
yeah,
give us our shit. Give us our money. You get your money.
Yeah, for sure. I think maybe this guy is an old school debater and he's just on the opposite side of this argument, just as debate clubs and debate organizations do, or he's really about that life. I don't know nothing about this guy, but what he's saying is wild. But he's on the other side. That's what he's supposed to say.
Structure in black areas. I think that these are going to be far better long term and even potentially short term than cash in hand.
Okay.
Wait, can I ask a question for both of you to explore related to that statement? So,
sure.
Irrelevant is saying that direct cash wouldn't necessarily solve the lion's share of the problems that African American community faces today in the United States. Whether or not it does or doesn't solve those problems, should that matter?
Why the hell the white man the only person makes sense on this motherfucker? Yo. See, the worst part is I don't know this white man outside of the 2 times that I've seen him speak, and I'm like, I bet he's normally like a racist on the regular, and I'm out here caping for him looking like a damn fool, and I'm just like, these Negroes gave me nothing to work with. Like, oh my god. All right,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Anybody?
You just watching a real Pokey battle in real life. That's all I gotta say. Watching the Pokemon battle in real life. He like, yo, I'm about to train both of my Pokemon. He like, yo, liberal, right wing Pokemon, go. Whoa. I'm like, go ahead, fight. Hit him with class reductionism. In fact, nah, hit him with the deficit. And he just want to see what the fuck gonna happen. And he just sitting there just looking at this shit. Look at the pyramid of this shit. This shit look crazy. That's all I gotta say. Well, you got something to say. Somebody, I ain't gonna say that.
Nah, Sam's right. I mean, he's the only one asking the right questions and going down the right path. Actually has points that are based in research. Like, honestly, I don't even know why he had these 2 debate. He should have just debated somebody else. Like,
or just talk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's got a point. It's a debt. You don't pay a debt. You don't pay a debt whether it's going to help or not. You pay a debt because it's owed. That's it. All right, Sam, you got anything else?
Yeah, I do. Did Jewish Holocaust reparations stop anti-Semitism in the world?
No, not that I've heard.
So should we have asked for that money back because it didn't get rid of it?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Can't really argue with that because I mean we hear that all the time. You know, will it really solve all your problems? People will be able to eat and have a roof over their head for a really long time with that loot.
That's all we really care about. Yeah, like
let's start there.
We don't need y'all to come and bake us cookies and hold our hands. Exactly. Like if I throw up, I don't need you to hold my hair.
Right. Pay us our money and leave us the fuck alone. That's all you do. Pay us the money and leave us the fuck alone, and we'll figure it out.
Yep, that's just like what after the Civil War. You know, when they asked that group of black folks, it was black men then, but that was just how it worked out. But you know, they consulted with the women, and and they told them what we need. Give us land that we can work and leave us the fuck alone. All right, and even not just give it to us, let us work it until we can pay for it. That's what they said. They didn't want a handout. They didn't want nothing. Even after 246 years of slavery, all they wanted was a fair shot.
That's it.
That's wild to me. And we couldn't even get that.
That's why I have no sympathy with motherfuckers who try to act like we're being selfish about this shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not going to be nice about shit. I'm just going to be matter of fact about what the fuck it is.
No, not you, Mud. Mud just bat him down. I ain't got no time for this shit.
I feel him. I'm happy he said it. We all feel like they all wear this shit either. Nigga, like, bro.
Mud is the grumpy old man in this show. You know, you ain't got time for no shit.
I thought you was a grumpy old man.
I'm grumpy. I can't mess with Mud. Mud is the grumpiest.
He's so funny.
Hey, everybody, y'all all evil. All of y'all, I'm the least evil person on the show.
That's why
y'all all evil. All of y'all. Sam is evil. Sam said, "Yeah, I don't care about you. Your white kid go to elementary school, give my babies they reparations."
I didn't say that. Not at all. I didn't say that one bit.
MG be like, you know what? MG be like, yo, real time, I'm not gonna say fuck your kid, but I got my kid, so. My kid. Then Mud just be like, I don't give a fuck about none of y'all.
All right, let's get back to these folks. This shit's forever.
I'll play it too much. You right.
Giving crap ton of cash to black people in the form of reparations without any direction to incentivize them on how they spend it would probably result in a lot of black people who lack financial literacy, to make that a very broad term to say here.
What we get wrong about closing the racial wealth gap: financial literacy will not help close the racial wealth gap. So all of their answers could have all been like taken care of by just reading one 64-page report. Most of what they brought up. Is there anything else, guys?
No, ma'am.
Well, I just want to say that on that same report, Darity essentially said that white people spend 1.3 times more money than we spend, which means we save more money. It's just that we're in a fucked up position because we don't have wealth in the first place. So we're just like, trying to save crumbs, essentially.
Absolutely. And we have no space for error. Very little space for error. None now. No space for error. Anything goes wrong, car breaks down, somebody gets sick, it's over.
Exactly.
It is absolutely over. Never mind taking on debt like a college or something like that. You don't have room for anything, really. All right. Anybody else got anything? Nah. All right.
All right, I'll rock it out.
Yes, ma'am.
Result in just spending a fuck ton of money on random consumerism shit, and that would probably end up ultimately being a lot of product bought from generally white-owned businesses, which in exchange of suffering and all this for material wealth, as opposed to any like structural pathway to better generations of black people to come, to hopefully try our best to make up for, to ultimately undo all the fucking of black.
Hey, Sam. I'm like that little girl now. That little girl in that commercial. Why not both? Nobody is saying only a check. Nobody who is learning about this stuff or has a passing and understanding of what we've been talking about the last 3 or 4 years, right? Nobody's saying it's just a check. There's a whole lot of stuff that goes with it, becoming a protected class, a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, you can read anything I wrote and see more, but read Dr. Darity's book, listen to what we talk about, but it's not just a check. All right. Anybody got anything on that?
Oh, go ahead.
My bad. But they just telling on themselves. They just letting you know that they mind state is that, you know what I mean? Like real shit. It's like be a class to be predators. You feel me? To be predators on. Like, you feel me? A class of prey. You know what I mean? Like real talk. Like we a class of prey. And it's like your real shit. See that? They didn't know that when we get out a little bit of money, you're not understanding what reparations is supposed to do. It's supposed to get us the fuck off the bottom. Like, you feel me? You feel me? Like real shit. So they don't understand that it comes with, you feel me, a way that they distribute the money in a way that doesn't fuck with inflation. And there's other things that come around. Like you can't be predatory on this no more. You can't do this no more. And you can't, feel me, and after a certain while, you can't even get the money no more without that shit being something that's building wealth. Like, feel me, like they not really understanding the crooks and nannies of what the fuck we trying to do. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they don't understand what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, even the richest of us have to answer to a white person along the line. You look at Jay-Z and Beyonce.
Exactly.
There's white executives that they got to answer to in their record labels or their distributors. Right. And it's the same thing in sports. Right. LeBron James got to answer to his coach and well, maybe not his coach, but he got to answer to the owner. You know what I mean? And some of these owners, I mean, if you look at the Knicks, some of these franchises are willing to sink their franchise to prove a point. Right.
I just said it. MG, motherfucker, is a white person that probably cut Oprah checks. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely. I mean, we watched Oprah buckle, her knees buckled when she had to support us. Right. When she had to support us, and when she had to support us openly without finding a way to ingratiate herself with the white folks. Right. I know how the system works. Make your money, boo boo. I get it. I understand how the system works. Right. I get it. If you, like they say, you go woke, you go broke, because the system will come down on you like a ton of bricks. So all of that is understandable, but at the same time, everybody should understand that that's how the system works. No matter how rich the black person is, you got to answer to a white person. Look at Bob, what's his name? Used to own BET, right? He made the bulk of his money selling BET. Bob Johnson, right?
Yeah.
He made the bulk of his money selling BET. You feel me? Like some nigga from Viacom was signing his check. You feel me? Like it was the white person from Viacom signing his checks all the time, giving him the okay, like this is, feel me, like this is all right. This ain't black enough. This is black enough. It's too black. This is, feel me?
Yeah,
white dude.
And to gain some form of independence, he had to cash out. That's wild. That's wild when you think about it. So even the people you think that are black and powerful, look at the CPC, especially in the House. They're all dependent upon Nancy Pelosi's checkbook or Nancy Pelosi's Rolodex or Nancy Pelosi's call list, right? Or Hillary Clinton's call list, right? Because we all answer to a white person, right? After being here 400 years. That's wild. That's wild. I'm sorry, family. I know I get long-winded. I should have stayed gone. Y'all go ahead.
That's great. That's great. That's all I got to say.
try our best to ultimately undo all the fucking of black people over the last 2 centuries. We're doing our best here. We can't undo history, and we can't undo all the damage done. All we can do now is try to compensate for that, and I guess try our best to simulate what modern America would look like if slavery hadn't been endured by African Americans for so long. So ultimately, the directionless spending by black people, without any kind of incentive to how to spend the money, would probably result in them buying a bunch of shit from white people ultimately, which ultimately result in like indirect wealth transfer to white people. Which that is my issue with it more so than anything else.
So there you go, white people. That's a stimulus for y'all. Give us reparations, more money for white people. Thank you, thank you, Trihex. Thank you, Trihex, for letting white people know what's in it for you. Y'all own all the means of production. You own everything. Y'all gonna get your cut. Give us reparations so you can get your cut. There you go. That's it. That was easy, right?
Yeah, that was easy. That was
easy.
You know, and
so now black people shouldn't get money because black people might go spend money with some white people. Shit, I spend money with white people every day.
Every day, we all do.
Like, I got to go out of my way to spend money with a black person. Like, I got to actively search. Like,
yeah, and even when we spend money in other communities, like the bodega on the corner, a white person likely owns the building that bodega is in, so that rent goes to a white person. Right. When we go to not to be stereotyped, when we go to a 7-Eleven or a laundry, a Chinese run laundry, that rent money, that bank they use, all run by a white person. Right. So everybody pays the vig, as the Italians used to say. Everybody pays the vig, and we got to be honest about that. Mud, what you got?
The way I envision reparations working out is we actually get like the cash, and we get like grants and stuff for like land and housing and stuff like that. And
federal jobs guarantee. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, and the white people that own all this fucking land down south, they gonna get a good lick. But after that point, and once we get stable with property, we're gonna start spending our money with ourselves a lot more than I think than people are considering. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think
which is actually your greatest fear, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think it's necessarily going to be this thing where all the money's just going, leave our hands and go right back into the white man's hands. It's going to be a thing where like we're just going to become like middle class Americans, and like there are middle class people who do go into poverty, but for the vast majority, what happens is they essentially stay in middle class. Their kids are middle class, their grandkids are middle class, and that's kind of the path we're trying to go down.
Exactly. And the thing about it is they're making some good points, but we want that shit too. But that's the stuff that y'all really don't want to start talking about. Y'all don't want to talk about having to give up some of these government contracts and having to give up some of this production so we can, you understand what I'm saying? Like nobody want to talk about that.
Yep. I mean, that's in essence, that's what that fight, the fight that the Asian organizations and Hispanic organizations the fight in California to kill the return affirmative action. They don't want they don't want to give up their cut of those contracts and stuff. They don't want to. Period. And if we get back in there, that's less for them to share. All right, because white folks ain't giving up no more. John, what you got? I'm sorry, Sam, were you finished?
I'm good, thank you.
All right, thank you. John, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, to me, it's just a few points. One, it's just that Destiny brought this dude on right here, right? This is the pro reparations guy. And he split back into an anti-black reparations argument immediately. Like that's why he brought him on as the pro reparations guy.
That's a good point, John.
You know what I mean? Like, it is second is like, you know what I mean? Like then second is like he really fed into the stereotype that reparations is the lottery. You know what I mean? Like it's not a lottery. It's not like people just scratched the ticket off and won the game. It's what's owed to a bunch of people that you stole from and took from they peoples and shit like that. You ain't never do nothing to make them whole. You ain't never just like, all right, just go ahead, nigga. We gonna help you a little bit. But no, this is the time that you feel me? Like this is reparations about rectifying what the fuck was owed to us, what the fuck was stolen from us. Like, and it's like him saying that motherfucking that we gonna spend all our money on and white people. No, like, I'm sorry, that shit racist to me. No, like, real shit, like, of course, yeah, nigga might buy a Cadillac truck, or, but yo, the type of wealth we talk, nigga might buy a Cadillac truck, might buy a Benz, he might do that, but then he gonna tell you like a real shit, like, yo, bro, we all got money now. About my mama, I be gonna try to talk about buying homes now.
Yeah,
because now you're talking about 32 million people. Like, all right, say if out of that 32 or 36 million people, it's 5 million people that do bullshit with it. It's 30. Now we're gonna have a class structure similar to white people. You understand what we trying to do? Like, you understand what this is? You feel me? Like, real shit. Like, now we're gonna have a real middle class. When they talk about the middle class, it include us now. You ain't talking about a whole class of rich, but it's middle class. Now, we really in the middle class now because we control it. It's over now. It's all like doggy call, like real shit. I'm not gonna say it's still gonna be put out. Our poverty level is gonna be proportionate to white poverty level now. So now we can play these games now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, these motherfuckers, these are anti-black arguments thinking that 32, 36 million black people is gonna go buy a Cadillac truck, buy a grill with a big chain on and spend their money on all that. That shit racist as hell. All right, that shit racist.
Listening to Reset Race, you now tuned in to Reset Race. You're listening to Reset Race, you're now tuned in to Reset Race. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them, put them back on the grill again. We grilling them, put them back on the grill again. We grilling them, back on the grill again. We grilling them, You're listening to Reset Race. ADOS need reparations to make America great. You're tuned in to Reset Race. We no longer starving while others eat off our plate. No. You're listening to Reset Race. We focused on our justice claim. We know what is at stake. You're tuned in to Reset Race. You'll find out who really about justice and really who fake. Lineage go back to U.S. Southern plantations. Lineage, Jim Crow and mass incarceration. Redline and lynchings. We are old from this nation. You're not about justice if you ain't for reparations. MG the wise one. Cousin mother intellectual. Samantha bringing fire. Anti-black, we pressing you. No permanent friends and no permanent enemies. The backbone of the country. To win, you need our energy. You gon' sit listening to Reset Race. You now tuned in to Reset Race. You're listening to Reset Race. You're now tuned in to Reset Race. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Back on the grill again. We grilling them. You're listening to Reset Race. ADOS need reparations to make America great. You're tuned in to Reset Race. We no longer starving while others eat off our plate. No. You're listening to Reset Race. We focused on our justice claim. We know what is at stake. You're tuned in to Reset Race. You'll find out who really about justice and really who fake.
Until you do right by me, everything you think about is gonna crumble.